You are over 60. Your testosterone has been declining for 30 years. Not dramatically, not all at once. Just quietly, 1% at a time, year after year since you were in your early 30s. By now, most men over 60 have testosterone levels that are 30 to 40% lower than their peak, and the effects are not subtle anymore. The muscle that used to stay on your frame without much effort is harder to build and easier to lose. The energy that used to carry you through a full day now fades by early afternoon. The motivation that used to feel automatic now requires effort just to switch on. The belly fat that was not there 10 years ago keeps arriving, no matter what you eat. And the sleep that used to restore you now leaves you wondering why you wake up tired. Most men assume this is just aging. They are half right. The decline is real, but the speed of that decline is not fixed. And for most men over 60, there is one natural intervention that does more to slow, stop, and partially reverse testosterone decline than anything else available without a prescription. It is not a supplement. It is not a diet. It is not a hormone patch or an injection. It is resistance training. Specifically, heavy compound resistance training performed consistently 2 to 3 times per week. And the science behind why it works at 60 is different from why it works at 30. At 30, resistance training boosts testosterone as part of a generally responsive hormonal system. At 60, it works through a completely different mechanism, one that most people, and many doctors, do not fully understand. Here is what is actually happening inside your body. Testosterone in men is produced primarily by Leydig cells inside the testes. These cells receive a signal from the pituitary gland called luteinizing hormone. When luteinizing hormone arrives, the Leydig cells convert cholesterol into testosterone through a chain of enzymatic reactions. In younger men, this system is robust and responds strongly to almost any stimulus. In men over 60, the system has become sluggish. Leydig cells are fewer in number. Their sensitivity to luteinizing hormone has decreased. The enzymatic machinery inside them runs more slowly. Think of it like a factory that has been operating for 60 years. The machines still work, but they are older. They need a stronger signal to produce the same output. Resistance training is that stronger signal. When you perform heavy compound exercises, squats, deadlifts, rows, presses, you create a powerful mechanical and hormonal demand throughout your body. Your muscles tear microscopically and demand repair. Your nervous system activates at high intensity. Your body temperature rises. And in response to all of this, the hypothalamus sends an urgent signal downward through the hormonal cascade. It releases gonadotropin-releasing hormone. The pituitary responds with luteinizing hormone. Leydig cells receive the strongest signal they have received in years, and they respond. Not perfectly, not like they did at 30, but measurably, meaningfully, clinically, significantly. Multiple studies have confirmed that men over 60 who perform resistance training 2 to 3 times per week show measurable increases in total testosterone, free testosterone, and DHEAA, the precursor hormone that supports testosterone production. One study found that 12 weeks of resistance training in men aged 60 to 70 produced a 17% increase in free testosterone. Another found that heavy leg training, specifically the squat and deadlift, produced the largest acute testosterone response of any exercise tested, in men of all ages, including those over 60. The leg muscles are the largest in the body. They represent the biggest hormonal lever you have. Training them hard sends the biggest signal to the Leydig cells. But resistance training does more than stimulate testosterone production. It also reduces one of the most powerful testosterone suppressors in the body of an older man. That suppressor is body fat, specifically visceral fat, the deep abdominal fat that wraps around the organs. Visceral fat contains high concentrations of an enzyme called aromatase. Aromatase converts testosterone into estrogen inside the fat tissue. The more visceral fat a man carries, the more of his testosterone is being converted away before it can reach its target tissues. In a man over 60 with significant visceral fat, this conversion can be responsible for a very large portion of his apparent testosterone deficiency. Resistance training is one of the most powerful reducers of visceral fat known to science. Not because of the calories burned during the session, but because of the metabolic changes it creates in the muscles themselves. Trained muscle tissue absorbs glucose more efficiently. It burns fat more readily during rest. It increases the body's overall metabolic rate even when you are sitting still. Think of trained muscle as a furnace that runs hotter all day, not just when you are exercising. As visceral fat decreases, aromatase activity decreases. Less testosterone is converted to estrogen. More free testosterone circulates in the bloodstream. The effect compounds over weeks and months. Now let us talk about the third mechanism. Resistance training in older men significantly improves the sensitivity of androgen receptors throughout the body. Your androgen receptors are the locks that testosterone opens. They sit on the surface of muscle cells, bone cells, brain cells, and many other tissues. When testosterone docks with an androgen receptor, it delivers its biological message. In older men, androgen receptor sensitivity often declines. The locks become stiffer. They need more testosterone to open fully. But research shows that resistance training, particularly heavy training that creates significant muscle damage and repair, upregulates androgen receptor density and sensitivity in the muscles that were trained. After a resistance training session, the trained muscles have more androgen receptors and more responsive ones. The same amount of testosterone produces a stronger biological effect. It is like replacing old rusty locks with new ones. The key does not need to be bigger. The locks just work better. This is why two men with identical testosterone levels can have completely different physical outcomes. The man who trains has more receptors. His testosterone does more work. The man who does not train has fewer, less sensitive receptors. His testosterone accomplishes less, even at the same blood level. Now let us address the practical question. What should a man over 60 actually do? The answer is not the same as what a 25-year-old should do. Recovery is slower after 60. Connective tissue is less resilient. The nervous system needs more time between heavy sessions. 2 sessions per week is often the optimal frequency for men over 60. 3 sessions per week is appropriate for men with good recovery capacity and no joint issues. Each session should focus on the large compound movements. Squats or leg press for the quadriceps and glutes. Romanian deadlifts or hip hinges for the hamstrings and posterior chain. Rows for the back and biceps. Pressing movements for the chest and shoulders. The weight should be challenging. Not so heavy that form breaks down, but heavy enough that the last 2 or 3 repetitions of each set require genuine effort. This is the threshold that triggers the hormonal response. Comfortable weights do not send the signal. Challenging weights do. Sets of 6 to 10 repetitions with 2 to 3 minutes of rest between sets have been shown in research to produce the strongest testosterone and growth hormone response in older men. This is not the same as the lighter, higher repetition training that many older men default to out of caution. That lighter training has value for endurance and general health, but it does not produce the same hormonal stimulus. The hormonal signal requires intensity. It requires the muscles to be pushed close to their limit. And for most men over 60, that level of intensity is completely safe when applied with proper technique and appropriate weight selection. Start where you are. If you have not trained before, start with body weight or light resistance and build progressively over 6 to 8 weeks. If you have trained before, return to compound movements with weights that feel moderately challenging and increase them as strength returns. Within 8 to 12 weeks of consistent training, the changes are measurable. Free testosterone increases, visceral fat begins to decrease, muscle mass begins to return, energy improves, sleep deepens. Belly fat does not vanish overnight, but its rate of accumulation slows and then reverses. The afternoon fatigue does not disappear immediately, but it begins to lift as mitochondrial density in muscle cells increases and metabolic efficiency improves, and the motivation, the drive that felt absent often begins to return within the first month. Not because of the testosterone alone, but because resistance training also increases dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine, the neurotransmitters that govern mood, motivation, and mental clarity. The brain responds to the training just as powerfully as the body does. There is one more thing that most people do not know about testosterone and aging. Decline is not inevitable at the speed most men experience it. Sedentary men lose testosterone faster than active men. The data on this is consistent across populations and age groups. Men who engage in regular resistance training throughout their 50s and 60s show testosterone levels 10 to 15 years younger than sedentary men of the same age. The decline still happens. Biology cannot be fully reversed, but the rate of decline can be slowed dramatically. A man of 65 who has been training consistently for 5 years may have the hormonal profile of a man of 50. Not because he found a magic supplement, not because he took a prescription hormone, but because he gave his Leydig cells a reason to keep working. He gave his body a signal that said, "We still need testosterone here. We are still building. We are still strong." And the body, remarkable as it is, listened. The number one natural way to boost testosterone after 60 is not complicated. It does not require a doctor. It does not require a pharmacy. It requires a barbell, or a set of dumbbells, or a resistance machine, or even your own body weight to begin. It requires 2 to 3 sessions per week. It requires the willingness to push to the edge of your comfortable limit and hold that edge long enough for the signal to fire. Your Leydig cells are still there. They are older, they are quieter, but they are listening. Give them a reason to work, and they will.